So as we continue 3.1 notes, you'll notice that now we're going to be given a different form and have to go back and forth between the others. So just a couple of things to remember. This column is going to be our standard form. This is our factored form. And this is going to be our vertex form. So when we're given factored form, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our factors and set them equal to 0. And then we're going to solve. So we'll add 3 to both sides. So we get x equals 3. And we're going to subtract 1 from both sides to get x is equal to -1. So my x-intercepts are going to be 3, 0 and -1, 0. And then just like before, we're going to graph this in a minute. For 7th and 8th, for 5th, you can ignore this part. All right, so basically what that means is that I just found the x-intercepts. So if I wanted to, I could graph those points right now and say I've got a point at 3 and I have a point at -1. If I was graphing. All right, so if I'm given factored form, I need to do standard form first. So if I'm given factored form, I'm going to go to standard. And so standard form, we're going to use the box and we're going to multiply. So you'll notice that I draw my box like I do as if I'm going to factor, but instead of putting the numbers inside the box, we're going to take these values that are in parentheses and put them on the outside. So I've got x and -3. And we have x and 1. Now this is going back to what we did in like September where we multiplied. And so we're just going to go x times x is x squared. X times -3 is -3x. 1 times x is 1x. And 1 times -3 is -3. And what we want to do is we want to rewrite this equation. So we've got y is equal to, notice that you had a 2 on the outside, so that 2 is still on the outside. And now we're going to simplify our box to find out what goes inside. So x squared, we're going to combine these two because they're like terms, and we combine them through addition. So 1x plus -3x is -2x, and then -3 is going to go at the end. And then because we have that a value out in front, that tells us that we're going to do distributive property. So we're going to take that 2 and give it to everything inside. And so we get y is equal to 2x squared minus 4x minus 6. And so from here, we know a couple things. We know that our y-intercept is our last number. So our y-intercept is going to be the point 0, -6. And we know that because this a value is positive, that it opens up. So if I wanted to, again, I could graph those two pieces right now. I could graph the point 0, -6. I'm not sure what we need there. So we're going to graph 0, -6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we do know that it opens up, but we don't know where the vertex is. So we don't know where that lowest point is or highest point. Or we're going to assume it's a lowest point because the y-intercept is below. So when I go to vertex form, I'm going to take my standard form. So y is equal to 2x squared plus, minus 4x minus 6. And so we're going to take that. And we're going to remember that we've got, this is my A value, this is my B value, this is my C value, right? So we're just talking about the numbers that are in front. And so to find H, we do -b over 2A. And so -b, you can either do we got negative of -4 over 2 times A, which is 2. And so this negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 divided by 4 gives us 1. So that means that our vertex, our H value is 1. And then to find K, we're going to take 1 and plug it in. So our K value is going to equal 2 times 1 squared. So everywhere there's an x, we're going to put in 1. And then minus 4 times 1 minus 6. And we can either put that in our calculator. So we can go 2 times 1 squared. Oops. And then minus 4 times 1 minus 6. And so that's going to give us k is equal to negative 8. You could also do that out by hand. You don't really need a calculator. So we get our vertex is 1, negative 8, and our axis of symmetry is going to be x is equal to 1. So when I go to here, this is my axis of symmetry is x is equal to 1. And then my vertex point is at 1, negative 8. So this was negative 6, 7, 8. So here's my point. It's 1 place away from that line, so I've got a point on the other side that's 1 place away. And then we just connect to make our U. All right. And then the last type we're going to have is if we have vertex form, and we're going to do the other forms. And so if I have vertex form, I want to do standard form first. So I want to go over and get my standard form taken care of. And so with that, as I take that over, we're supposed to, hopefully, we can see that this is our H value and this is our K value. So from there, we know our vertex is 1, 9. And we know that our axis of symmetry is going to be 1. So our axis of symmetry is going to be x is equal to 1. And then we're going to graph that. And so again, as I go to graph, I'm going to draw my grid. Again, 5th period, you don't need to worry about this. And we've got our values. So a couple things we know. We know that we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we know our vertex point is at 1, 9, and we know that we have an axis of symmetry at x equals 1. So this is my axis of symmetry, and I know that my vertex point is at 1, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 9's here. All right, and then we're going to move over and go to standard form. And so what we want to do is realize that this part in parentheses we can do in the box. So that little power 2 means that I've got 2 of them. I have x minus 1 and I have x minus 1. And so when I do my box, I'm going to go x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. Negative 1 times x, negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And what I want to do is I want to put this value in, because remember our equation looks like this. So when I combine these and I get x squared minus 2x plus 1, because I'm going to combine these two, this is going to get substituted in for this set of parentheses because they're the same thing. So I'm going to go negative, and I'm going to plug that in, x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then that plus 9 is sitting on the outside. And so what I want to do is I want to distribute the negative 1 to everything on the inside, not to the 9. So this is going to be y is equal to negative 1x squared, positive 2x, minus 1 plus 9. And these two at the end up giving me positive 8. And so now I have standard form. And so now we know the number at the end is our y-intercept. So this is the 0.08. And my number in the front is a negative, so we know that it opens down. And so we've got a y-intercept at 0.8. And because it's 1 space away from the line, we should have one on the other side that's 1 space away from that axis of symmetry. And technically, I could just make my u right now if I was going to graph it because I have the general picture. But because we're asked to do factored form, we might as well get those exact. And so we're going to take our standard form. and we're going to factor. And remember that when we factor, our very first step is always to take out the greatest common factor and make a be positive. So I'm going to take out a -1. So this becomes x squared minus 2x minus 8. And then I'm going to multiply a times c. So there's a 1. 1 times -8 is -8. Our factors of -8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. And I'm trying to get -2 in the middle. So I'm using 2 and -4. And then we're going to do the box. So first term goes in the first box. And we don't worry about the negative on the outside. We're worrying about just what's in parentheses. -8 goes in the last box, and the pair that we picked was 2x and -4x. And again, remember that order doesn't matter. So greatest common factor is x. Greatest common factor is -4. Greatest common factor is x. Greatest common factor is 2. And we're going to set those equal to 0, and we're going to solve. So as I solve those, I'm going to say, well, I'm minusing 4, so we do the opposite, which is add 4. So x is equal to 4. It's, plus 2. I forgot to set it equal to 0. So it's plus 2, so we're going to do the opposite, which is subtract 2. And so we get x is equal to -2. So our x-intercepts are at 4, 0, and -2, 0. And really, that's all it's asking for you, but we're going to graph those. So we've got a point at 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a point at -2, 0. And again, I just would like to point out, notice how it's 1, 2, 3 spaces away from the axis of symmetry, 1, 2, 3 spaces from the axis of symmetry. And then you just connect those with a nice curve. And, well, that side didn't hit my points very well. Pretend. All right, well, we're just going to pretend that it did hit my point. All right, and so that's all we're going to do. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, make sure you get onto Zoom on Friday or any day after school between 2:30 and 3:30. All right, have a good day.